Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait for another couple of minutes for everybody to join. But while we wait, can I encourage you to use the chat function to write where you are calling from, so we can see which part of the world is most interested in learning about the GlycanAge report and our new updates. So feel free to use the chat function. Yes, so our GlycanAge support is right. So you can use the chat function to tell us where you are joining from, and feel free to use the Q&A function to write the questions so we can answer them. Oh, the chat is disabled. Thank you for saying that. So the Q&A function works well, but the chat is disabled. So can somebody from the support? Oh, okay, I see it's functioning now. Thank you for that. Hello, everybody. Okay, I thought everybody was shy, but the chat function was just not functioning properly. Wow, we have people from Oman, Alabama, Belgium, Ontario, Canada, Liverpool, London, Mexico. Wow, a true international affair. Paris, hello. Yes, and Croatia. This is where our lab facility is. So thank you, people from Croatia, for joining. Oh, Dr. Solomon, thank you for joining from Ethiopia. And Colombia, we have BioAccelerator people here. Hello. Okay, so let me slowly start. Thank you all for being active. We have lots of news and updates to share today. And hello from hello, Slovenia. Okay, let me start with the introductions. My name is Paula Francekovic. Some of you probably know me from the partner interpretation and education calls. I am a GlycanAge specialist and a head of education. So today I am particularly excited about these new updates because hopefully they will make my job easier because typically I work with a team of specialists to help you understand the results and integrate GlycanAge testing into the practice. But now in the new report, you will see that you already have some insights and actionable steps that we have gathered by looking at thousands of reports and also conducting lots of interventions and observational studies. And hopefully it will make your job of onboarding and integrating GlycanAge into your practice much easier and quite simple. Today, I'm joined with Dora Lalic, who is a research and product development associate. So she is one of the people responsible for actually developing the report. She will tell us what are the exact updates. So let's talk a little bit about today's agenda. Okay, so we will introduce the GlycanAge report in general at the beginning, because I know some of you are not yet our partners. So we'll start with a brief introduction. Then Dora will share what are the new updates and how they look like. And I will go through a real-life case example of a patient that I had the opportunity to talk to and to show the new results, so you can see how this works in practice. And lastly, I'm going to show you, so we are going to show you how the new AI assistant works, which is another addition next to our report that is updated. Now you have an AI assistant available on your partner dashboard, and you can use it to also help you understand the result and even develop some personalized protocols. I will show you where to find it and how to use it. Okay, but Dora, please take it away now.
Thank you very much, Paula. Before we begin, I do apologize for some background noises. If it's getting too loud, please let me know so I will try to change rooms. But this is one of the advantages from sometimes working from home. So let's get started. Now, before we go into the report itself, since Paula mentioned we do have some new people here, I will just briefly mention some of the basics around GlycanAge in case some of you might not know. So GlycanAge is a biological age test that measures chronic inflammation. And this is something that sets us apart from the rest of the biological age tests out there, which are mostly epigenetic ones, which means they are focused on analyzing changes in DNA methylation patterns. So what we are unique in is that we measure chronic inflammation, and that is one of the biggest drivers of disease development as we get age. And as we age, and it reflects the damage that we have accumulated throughout lifetime, whether due to the environment, our lifestyle, or just the natural consequences of aging. And because of that, chronic inflammation is a great biomarker, not just for aging, but also for current and for your future health, because chronic inflammation precedes the development of diseases. So you have the ability to, if you catch this increase in chronic inflammation before it actually leads to the development of a disease, you have this proactive window when you can actually do something about it and move away from the disease development. Now, the problem with chronic inflammation is that it is extremely difficult to measure. So the traditional biomarkers tend to respond to acute inflammation, and they tend to fluctuate even on a daily basis. So in order to assess chronic inflammation, you would have to take multiple measurements, which is quite unpractical. So what we do is we use these novel biomarkers called glycans, and I will not go into depth on what glycans are, even though I would want to, because I love talking about that. I will just briefly say that glycans are complex sugars which help regulate a lot of the processes in the human body, and the ones which GlycanAge focuses on are attached to our immunoglobulin G antibodies. This is why we, in short, call them IgG glycans. And these glycans, they help to regulate the function of our immune system, and they determine whether our immune system will promote or suppress inflammation. There is around 30 different glycans that we analyze with our test, and some of these are pro-inflammatory while others are anti-inflammatory. And by looking at this balance, we are able to determine someone's biological age. The test itself is a simple finger prick test, requires 4 drops of blood, and everything you need for taking the sample is inside this testing kit you can see on the picture. And once you take the sample of your client, you ship the sample back to our laboratories where we analyze them. And once the results are done, we provide you with the GlycanAge report. The report is separated into 3 main parts. So we have the biological age, we have the glycan indexes, which are different glycan-based metrics of inflammation. And these are actually the main metrics of our test, which are then used to calculate somebody's biological age. But I will talk about that in a bit more detail in a few minutes. And then the last part is called Glycan Insights, which compares the results of your client's indexes to patterns seen in various diseases. And before we move into the pages of the report, I just wanted to highlight for our regular users, which are the biggest changes that we've made with this update. I would say the biggest change is definitely what we've done with the supportive indexes. I will talk about that once we get to them, but we have changed the way we interpret the glycan median index, and also we have renamed the glycan lifestyle index. Next, we have added the results through time pages, which you will see enables you to compare your client's results for those who have tested more than once with their previous tests. We have also improved the overall design to make the report easier to navigate. And as Paula mentioned, we have added some personalized insights and action steps recommendations. So let's get into the report. At the bottom of every page, which has some sort of an update, you have this change log, which you can click, and it's going to take you to a page which explains all these updates in more detail. And we're starting off with the table of contents. I believe this part makes the whole report really easy to navigate because, as you can see from the list, there is quite a lot of pages in the report. The first part is regarding the results themselves. So we have the executive summary, which is just a brief summary of all three categories of the results. So again, we have the biological age, glycan indexes, and glycan insights. Then we have the mentioned results through time, and then we have the results breakdown. So we have individual pages for every index and for every disease that is the part of glycan insights. But again, we will go through all of these pages in more detail. And then this other part is more for educational purposes because there is quite a lot of research that we've done. There's over 300 papers that published in renowned journals over the course of the last 2 decades. So we kind of wanted to translate as much knowledge as we could on the potential intervention or, for example, the effect of different life stages on your glycans. So this is kind of the intention for this part here. And then lastly, in this update, we have added the so-called GlycanAge 101 section, which is a 3-page summary on the science behind the test, explaining what our glycan index is, and some other details. And as I've said, so this table of contents makes it much easier to navigate the report because let's say I want to go and take a look at the biological age page, I can just click on it and it takes me straight to that page. If I want to go back, I just click on this icon in the top right corner, and this goes for every single page because usually you would have to, scroll a long time to get to the page you want, but this makes it also much easier and quicker. Okay, we're starting with the executive summary of the results, and the biological age is the first part of it. So here we can see an example of a 41-year-old female client whose biological age is 34, which means they are 7 years younger. And this right side of the page, this is the personalized part of the report. So this text will be different depending on your client's results. So in this case, we can see that this results indicates exceptional immune regulation and low levels of chronic inflammation. And here below, you have some common causes listed out. For example, it is to be expected that these individuals who have lower biological age have optimal lifestyle habits, but it's also possible that they have some sort of genetic predisposition because there are certain individuals who, despite their, let's call it, unhealthy lifestyle, can have favorable results because, well, their genes just decided so. There is also another type of cases where individuals, you might expect them to have higher biological age because they say they have some sort of inflammatory disease. However, if this disease is being managed effectively with some sort of medications or therapies, it is possible for them to have lower biological age. So when interpreting biological age tests, it's always important to keep in mind which biomarker is being analyzed, because in this sense, it is chronic inflammation. So even individuals who might be unhealthy and you would expect them to be older, because they're managing this inflammation through pharmacological interventions, they can seem younger. Next, we're moving on into the glycan indexes summary. So glycan indexes are representing different groups of glycans that share a common feature. So from the blood sample that we get in our laboratory, as I've mentioned, we analyze around 30 different glycans, and then we group them into one of these 5 groups of glycans. Previously in the report, we did have a small text explaining what is the difference between the primary and supportive glycan indexes, but in this version, we also wanted to separate them visually, so it's really clear what is the difference between those. So the primary glycan indexes are what is driving the biological age. These are glycans that change in a predictable pattern with aging, and this is why they are directly contributing to the biological age number. On the other hand, we have the supportive glycan indexes, which don't change in a predictable pattern with aging, but they do change with inflammation, and they do change in certain conditions, or they are associated with specific areas of health, so they can still give you valuable insights into your patient health, not to just the primary indexes and not just the biological age. Because as you can see here, even on the first glance, the primary indexes, they all seem good. And again, on the right side of the page, you have these personalized insights recommending you on which indexes you should focus the most for this specific client. So here, all three primary indexes, they seem all right. One of them is in the optimal range, while the other two are in the average range. So you can only potentially focus on the glycan youth index and the glycan mature index in order to improve the overall biological age. On the other hand, you also have these suggestions regarding supportive indexes, and it is quite evident that the glycan median index is out of range, and this should be the primary area of focus for this client. Another thing I didn't mention, but as you can see from these graphs, is that these indexes can either be pro or anti-inflammatory. So for example, here, the first two primary indexes are anti-inflammatory because they group glycans that have protective anti-inflammatory properties. So you want to have a higher amount of these glycans. And the third part of the results, so this is the summary for Glycan Insights. Again, as I've said before, so this part of the report merely compares your client index results with the patterns that are characteristic of a variety of diseases. There is over 10 different diseases that we do these correlations for, and we have grouped them into broader health groups. So we have the cardiovascular health, metabolic, autoimmune, respiratory, and for women, we have the female health. I just wanted to highlight that these are not disease risk factors. These are merely looking at the similarities between your client's profile and the ones that are seen for diseases. So these are not disease-specific biomarkers. We are just looking at the similarity based on their inflammation profile. For this specific client, as you can see, there are some areas for attention. Specifically, the diseases that are listed here are the ones that show some similarities with your client's profile. Specifically for the cardiovascular health, that would be the myocardial infarction. And for the respiratory health, we have the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We're going to check these pages in more detail in a couple of minutes, but this was the executive summary, so the brief overview of all of the results. This is the mentioned action steps plan. This is the new feature of the report. So on the left side, you have some specific recommendations that you can do to improve your patient's, your client's results. This upper part is focused specifically on primary indexes, and then this lower one is focused on supportive indexes. Here we also have some further testing suggested. However, all of these should be interpreted alongside other clinical data and family history of the given client. And on the right side is a suggestion on when you should retest this client. So for this specific case, considering they have a fairly favorable biological age and really good primary indexes, we would suggest to retest sometimes 9 to 12 months after this. However, if the individual is planning to incorporate some interventions that are aimed at reducing inflammation, you can test them even before that. Next, we have the results through time. This specific client has tested quite a few times, and you can see how their biological age changed through time compared to their chronological age. So the first test was taken when they were 35, and now they are 41. As you can see, it's been quite a dynamic journey for them. And we can also see the same thing for the glycan indexes. I think this is quite useful because you can straight away see which indexes improve the most through time. So for example, for the glycan mature index, we can see it was quite unfavorable when they started their GlycanAge journey, but today this index is quite well. On the other hand, if we look at the glycan median index, we can see that it has continuously been bad. So I would definitely say this is the area, or this is the index on which you should focus the most for this specific client. Next, we have the results breakdown. So we've got individual pages for all the 5 glycan indexes and all the diseases. And I will just go through some of them to show you how they work. I believe this is the most useful for our new clients who are not still familiar with the indexes or which factors affect which indexes. So this page explains which glycans are grouped within this index, and you even have a picture of the glycan. As you can see, they look like complex Lego structure, which are built out of smaller Lego sugar building blocks. And this specific index is characterized by the presence of sialic acids. These are the little orange squares at the top. So all the glycans that contain these blocks are grouped in the glycan shield index, and they are protective and anti-inflammatory glycans. This is why you want to have a higher score in this index. And here in this bar, we have the exact percentile in which your client falls into, so that you can compare them to the general population. Even above, you have a graphical, a visual representation of this. So here you can see how the glycan shield index changes as we age. And this line clearly showed that it decreases with aging. And then your client is here presented as this little green dot. As you can see, this woman is actually above average, which we can also read on the graph here. On the left side, you have some factors listed out which are associated with either optimal or suboptimal results. And the intention for this is when your client has a poor score in a specific index, you can go to this page and you can browse through the factors and try to find the potential culprit for why their index is so bad. The rest of the indexes are presented in the same way. So we have another anti-inflammatory index. This is the glycan youth index. And we have one pro-inflammatory index, which is called the glycan mature. It groups very short glycans that are lacking these protective galactose sugars. And so for this index, you want to have the lowest amount of them possible, and a higher amount is considered worse. So this would be for the primary glycan indexes, again, the one that are driving the biological age. And now I'm just going to briefly mention what are the changes that we've done to the supportive indexes. In regards to glycan median, we have changed the way of how to interpret it, because before, from those of you who have used the GlycanAge report before, you know that the optimal result was considered around average, and very low or very high amounts of glycan median were considered to be bad. However, we are continuously doing new research on glycans, and new studies have shown that actually lower amounts of glycan median are associated with a variety of chronic diseases, especially cardiovascular diseases in women, and that higher amounts are considered favorable. So this was the reason for changing the way we interpret this index. Some of these papers are in the process of being published, and once they are, we will gladly share them with you. So yes, this is perhaps one of the biggest changes in the whole report, is the way we are interpreting this index. The last index is the previously called glycan lifestyle index. So the only thing we've changed here is the very name of the index. And the reason for it is because we wanted to more correctly reflect the underlying biology. Here you can see the picture of the glycans grouped in this group, and they all have this bisection modification, hence the name bisection. We wanted to remove the name lifestyle because our users were often confused and thought that this was the only index that lifestyle had an effect on. However, this is very far from the truth. And actually, all the glycan indexes are affected by lifestyle, just different components of it. And this was kind of the main reason why we wanted to change it. We have named it glycan lifestyle a long time ago, when we were driven by the fact that these glycans are not affected by aging, but more by some lifestyle factors. Again, on the left side, you can see some factors which are associated with poor results in this index, such as smoking, environmental toxin exposure, alcohol intake, chronic stress, and the lack of sleep. So again, these are a lot of them are lifestyle factors. But if somebody does have a poor score in this index, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have an unhealthy lifestyle. It just means that their body is less resilient to some lifestyle factors. And hopefully this will make the interpretation a bit more clear in the future. Last part of the results are the glycan insights. So here you can again see the categories that I've mentioned a few minutes ago. We have the cardiovascular, metabolic, autoimmune, respiratory, and female health. And here you have all the diseases listed out. For this particular individual, they are flagging on 2 diseases. So we have the myocardial infarction and the COPD. So for example, let's check the COPD. And again, I'm going to go to the table of contents and just click this because it's going to be much quicker. So this disease particularly is characterized by a pattern of low glycan median and high glycan bisection indexes. As you can see, the client in question is kind of overlapping with the glycan median, so they also have a quite low score here. But if you look at the bisection index, it is not quite high, so I personally wouldn't see this as a big concern. However, this is a talking point for you and your client where you can further investigate whether there is some family history of respiratory diseases, or if there are any symptoms within this client that can be pointing to the development of such diseases. Again, these are not disease risk factors. They are merely looking at the similarities and trying to show you on which areas of health you might want to focus on more than the others. That would be it relating to the updates on the results part. The influencing factor, so this educational part, has remained the same. So I will not go into depth. I will just show you one of the pages. For example, let's take a look at hormonal replacement therapy. On the left side, you have a description on how this factor affects GlycanAge, so the biological age and the glycan indexes. In this example, it is known that hormonal replacement therapy in women can lower their biological age and also lower the amounts of the pro-inflammatory glycan mature index. On the right side, you have a summary of the scientific study that was used for making these claims. And again, I will just go back by using this button here. The last part that we've added was the GlycanAge 101 section. So it is a 3-page summary of the science behind the test. It covers some of the frequently asked questions around what is GlycanAge, what do we analyze, and how do we do it. The second page explains what glycan indexes are, and then the last page explains the difference between glycosylation, which is what we measure, and glycation, which is something completely opposite, but people often confuse them with one another because they sound similar, so we just wanted to cover it in the report as well. And the ending finishes with technical information and with the summary of all of the references. That would be it. I hope it wasn't too long and that it was helpful. And now I will let Paula show you a real-life case example of this report and how to use it in practice.
Okay, thank you, Dora. So I will share my screen with a real-life example. So first, what I want to emphasize is that I'm using the version of the report developed for medical professionals. Dora, can you just confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So there are 2 main versions of the report that you can download from your partner dashboard. One of them is this one, and we recommend you as a medical professional to use this one to actually prepare for the client consultations. And we have also another version of the report, which is kind of patient-friendly, client-friendly, where this one you can print out or hand over to the client and actually go through the results together with the client. The main difference between the 2 versions are the disease indication. So this is not the only difference that the versions have, but it's the most important one. So the glycan profile that associate with certain diseases are listed here in this report. They are not listed in the same fashion in the patient-friendly version because sometimes in certain cases they add they kind of contribute to the stress load that the client has, which can already be high if their biological age is elevated, particularly if it's significantly elevated above their chronological age. So you need to know how these glycan patterns associate with certain disease risks, but it's better for you to verbally communicate this and confirm it, triangulate with other blood markers and with family history to assess the relevance for each of your patients. Okay, so let me go through the results. So you can see while I do the interpretation and analysis, I already know about the influencing factors. I already know what are the potential driving factors for each of the indexes. So what I'm focused on is actually mapping out the pattern that we see in the glycan indexes and want to kind of explain it properly to set up the main priorities for actionable steps for the clients. So in practice, I only use about seven slides of this report. Of course, other slides are useful if you are new to results interpretation or if you need a refresher. So basically, I will just use this executive summary and results through time if I have repeated measurements. I sometimes use, I really like the science behind, because if I have a client that is interested in this, I can share that with them. Okay, so what I really like in the new report is that right away after executive summary, we have the biological age. This was not the case before. I had to scroll down a lot to get to the biological age, whereas most of the clients actually do the testing because they want to see this number. So now it's actually the first one to be presented. And here is a case of a 50-year-old female client that has a biological age of 38. So this is a real-life example of a client that I spoken with a week ago. And what I really like in the new version is that it allows me to prepare the communication points right away. So remember, this is the report that I would be using to prepare for the client consultation. So right away, I can communicate that this is exceptional immune regulation and that we see low negative impact of chronic inflammation in this case. What I also can do now is map out the common causes. So right away, I know that I need to ask the client, are they on certain medication? Are they treating a certain condition? Are they doing some therapies? And we mentioned these as different categories because medications are typically considered treatments for a particular diagnosis. However, some of our clients can be on therapies that are anti-aging. So for example, it depends. Do you consider taking rapamycin for anti-aging as medication or as an adjuvant therapy? So this is also something very important to check because a lot of clients do not report their use of rapamycin or metformin for anti-aging purposes because they don't consider them to be medication. I also want to assess the lifestyle habits of this patient and the family history to see if there are favorable genetical patterns. What is very interesting about this client's case is that this is a female in menopause, treating the menopause with hormone replacement therapy. So right away, I know that this is most probably caused by effective medication, effective management of menopause. So if I go further, the next pages are going to allow me to personalize my approach even more. So now we have a more detailed background. So here I have a summary of the primary glycan indexes. As Dora nicely mentioned, those are the glycans that we associate with aging. So these glycan indexes actually contribute to the biological age calculation. And I can see here that they are optimal. And again, I can confirm that all three are optimal, most likely as a consequence of effective therapy. However, if I dig a little bit deeper, I see an unwanted pattern in supportive indexes. And if you remember from Dora's presentation, these supportive indexes, these are the types of glycans that are not influenced by the process of aging. But if we see a derangement in those indexes, we can get a deeper health-related insight. And now you have a summary here. So in this client's case, we were thinking about, so when we first developed these summaries, what we wanted to move away from is actually looking at individual glycan indexes, and we want to kind of gear towards pattern recognition. So it's important that both of the supportive indexes are disrupted at the same time. So this is giving us slightly different indications rather than focusing on each indexes individually. And as we can see here, both of them are associated with certain conditions. You will see this on individual glycan pages. However, this profile, the pattern that they are showing, suggests autonomic dysregulation. heightened environmental strain, and this is potentially linked to circadian disruption, poor recovery, and chronic exposure to irritants. So right away, I know which areas I need to explore and communicate with the patient. I wanted to say something else. So yeah, this is just from practical experience, this is a typical profile that I refer to as the biohacked profile. So we see positive impacts of certain therapies. However, some lifestyle-related factors are not yet optimal. So even though the biological aging process is addressed, we do have some underlying issues that need fixing. And this is quite an interesting conundrum because for example, we have also found that particular hormone replacement therapy, particularly estradiol-based therapies, can reduce mortality. And we believe that this is one of the reasons why we see such a beneficial effect on the biological aging of those therapies. However, because we have broader glycan insights, we can also detect some of the health disarrangements that can disrupt the quality of life, but do not necessarily have to relate with reductions in mortality. So for example, here, potential autonomic dysregulation is not going to reduce the lifespan of that patient, but it can definitely impact the quality of life. Now, the second page I want to look at before I talk to the client are the glycan insights, which are now simplified. So I know that cardiovascular health is an area to investigate further, and respiratory health is an area to investigate further. And these are the two areas of attention. So when we talk about cardiovascular health, I want to evaluate family history and personal history of hypertension. And when we talk about respiratory health, I want to evaluate personal and family history of COPD and signs of respiratory distress. And what is interesting, and this is a very common thing we see in women in menopause, they right after they start to experience menopausal symptoms, they would oftentimes have problems with regulating their blood pressure. And oftentimes we actually see an appearance of new allergy and asthma symptoms, which is very common. So this is a very common flag that we see in cases of menopause. Definitely worth keeping an eye on and investigating further. So now this is the new edition of the report, kind of the culmination of these indications, the recommendations for actionable steps. We didn't have this before, but we created it as a joint effort based on our experiencing in pattern recognition so far in practice, and also new findings and associations that we conducted with our research team. So for primary focus, we can have actionable steps that are divided based on the primary indexes indication and the secondary index indications. So for the primary indexes, the recommended steps are to evaluate whether the optimal results are driven by pharmaceutical interventions, favorable genetic traits, or lifestyle factors. So right away, you have been giving an option to investigate further. In this case, it is quite apparent that hormone replacement therapy is the culprit, which you can use as an argument to know that the hormone replacement therapy is implemented at the right dose, at the right time, and at the right mode of application, because not every mode of application and the dose works to improve biological aging in all individuals. If a person is on HRT and we do not see an expected decrease in the biological age, this is also a sign to change the quantity or the mode of application of the therapy. And further testing is not suggested here because primary indexes are optimal, but the secondary focus, again, addressing the autonomic stress is key here, if you remember those indications from before. So we would want to focus on circadian alignment, structured recovery, minimizing environmental exposures to poor air quality, smoking, occupational irritants, and so on. And we want to also support cardiovascular and respiratory health. If you remember, these are our main areas of focus by recommending aerobic conditioning and regularly monitoring the things that relate to particularly hypertension and COPD. So further testing here suggested is related to those indications that we see. And I can tell you that this is definitely true for this client's case, because as many women in menopause, she struggles with her sleep quality. She doesn't actually experience any COPD symptoms or respiratory issues, so this is an area that we will monitor closely. And cardiovascular exercise is a big problem for her, so I advise to actually start slow and do what is possible, but definitely I wanted to emphasize for this client that maybe, you know, increasing just regular movement, choosing the stairs rather than the escalator and so on is going to make a major difference. And what I recommended, so we talked a lot about having structured recovery and structured sleep plan. We talked about having a proper bedtime routine. I recommended some specific sleep aids that are well received for majority of the clients. And we also talked about morning sun exposure to kind of set up the circadian alignment throughout the day. So this is kind of the level of optimization that is needed here to support the supportive indexes disruption. So what I also recommended is for the client to retest 9 to 12 months, because actually these lifestyle interventions take time to be integrated, and the response of the glycans is quite slower. For example, with if the client was HRT naive and we were introducing the HRT therapy, we would definitely recommend retesting sooner, maybe even after 3 months. But now the window is much broader. Of course, if I was working with a hormone specialist and the hormone specialist decided to switch up the dose or the mode of application of the HRT, I would also recommend retesting sooner to see if this is more or less beneficial on the biological aging of a client. So that's basically it. These are all of the things that hopefully you will need to properly interpret the results and to properly set up the priority areas and actionable steps, recommendations for the client. Of course, you can always go back to see the indexes breakdown and to see individual index drivers and to actually learn about the disease associations, see the hypertension and COPD overlaps, and learn about glycans in the last pages. Okay, I will stop my sharing right now, and I will reshare another screen to actually show you our AI assistant. So we have developed an AI assistant, and we have Philip here, our main AI developer. He's available to answer all of your questions if you have them. But let me share the screen. So what I'm sharing now, and basically the goal behind the AI assistant is to actually help you interpret the results and help you develop personalized protocols for the clients. So what I'm sharing here is maybe very familiar to some of you. This is your partner dashboard. Here you can find some interesting new white papers, and just so everybody is aware, you can click the help and support button here, and you can book a consultation with one of our specialists or with me if you need further support, or with customer support if you have some technical issues that you want to settle and solve and address. So here is one of our, so what we have here is one patient assigned to this partner profile, and this is our COO. As you can see, she tested quite a lot. And I will, so what Dora and I did is we had a brief conversation with our AI interpreter this morning, and I will show you the results. We wanted to do this live, but I have to say it does take quite a long time for the AI to generate the answer, particularly knowing that it needs to interpret so many reports at the same time. So we didn't want to waste anybody's time just waiting for the answers. But at the end, we can maybe ask some of the questions live. If you have an idea on what to ask, please write it in the Q&A or in the chat. Hopefully it's not going to be a Mark Zuckerberg situation. Dora, did you want to say?
I just wanted to jump in when Paula says it takes a long time. It's less than a minute. It just is going to take a long time if we do it live with you.
Yeah,
That is the only
minute,
reason.
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's extremely long, less than a minute.
Yeah,
this is with the more complex questions. For the easy one, it's much faster. It answers within a few seconds.
Yeah, thank you. So a brief attention here. Can you, if you see the results through time, you can see that the last sample was conducted in June this year, where the biological age was 34. In the previous report, biological age was 47 and 43. So we see a reduction here, and you will see this interpreted quite nicely by our AI. So if I want to use the AI assistant, I would just click here, AI report interpretation. And now let's scroll to the beginning of our conversation. So I asked first, let me just zoom in a little bit to make it nicer for everybody. I asked at the beginning, how can you help me? And the AI offers three main directions to take. So first, GlycanAge can help you interpret the GlycanAge testing. So all you need to do is provide the kit code for the client that you want the AI to assist you with interpretation, and it can already give you the full summary of the results. It can help you also plan lifestyle interventions and other interventions if you are uncertain on how to approach a client with a certain condition, what to recommend when we talk about diet for that condition, or exercise for that condition, and sleep or stress management. And it can also answer your general questions about glycans, about all of the science behind this testing. So what Dora and I did today is just provided a kit code, and this is the kit code for the latest test from our CEO. So it says here that the biological age of this individual is 34, 7 years younger than their chronological age. This is exactly, this is the accurate result. And what also is provided here is a detailed breakdown of the 5 key glycan indexes. This is really nice because right away you can kind of see which areas are good. As you can see here, high is ideal. Those are the anti-inflammatory glycans that we want to have as high as possible. So both of these are excellent, and you have been giving us a short explanation on why this is ideal. Glycan mature is good, normal levels, but lowering further could be more beneficial because these are the pro-inflammatory glycans that we want to have as low as possible. Here we are presented with indication that glycan median is low and that needs improvement, and this is the main focus area. And glycan bisection is average. This is good. However, high stress lifestyle is important to monitor. If a person undergoes a stressful period, this is actually the index to pay attention to. Then you have a summary and recommendations, and of course the main area to focus on is increasing the glycan median. So what we did next is we asked the AI to compare all of the results from this client, and this is actually taking quite a bit of a longer time for the AI to generate. And the reason for this is because we have quite a few results to go through. But this is a very nice summary table of all of the reports, all of the relevant reports. So going from 2023 to this year, as you can see here, there is a quite big of a difference going from having biological age that is 1 year higher than chronological to reducing the biological age substantially and then going back and forth. And what I really like is the summary of progress, where the positive changes are emphasized and the areas of concerns are emphasized, which kind of allows you to focus on period in June 2023 to March 2024, and you want to ask the client, what have they been doing in that period to have such an amazing result, and what did they start to do afterwards to decrease the results. So we are also presented with key observations. So what is interesting about this client's case is that glycan shield optimization seems to be the key, because there are major fluctuations between the glycan shield, whereas glycan youth and glycan mature are kind of stable. So actually discovering why there are so many fluctuations in glycan shield is key to actually keeping the biological age low. So as you can see here, one time it was on the 72nd percentile, the other time it was on the 29th percentile, which resulted in this biological age fluctuations. And another key indication is that the glycan median is persistently low. So we definitely want to investigate why is this profile keep occurring. Okay, so later on, we have told the AI to interpret the health details, because it actually suggested, it says, I have access to detailed health and lifestyle questionnaires submitted with some of these kids. Would you like me to perform a deeper analysis of the lifestyle factors? So yes, this is also possible for our end customers. They have the possibility to actually answer some of the health questionnaires to be more precise about certain health areas. And we have this for this client. And I said, yes, interpret the health details and keep in mind that the client has Hashimoto thyroiditis. So it really did a nice analysis of the condition, keeping in mind all of the health information and autoimmune disease in mind. So what are the main strategic discoveries here is that the diet quality in the time where the patient had optimal results was very high. So the diet was anti-inflammatory, eating lots of plants and reducing processed food intake, which is key to actually actively managing autoimmune conditions, particularly Hashimoto's. And she also did some advanced supplement protocol. She was taking a lot of supporting herbs, vitamins, and minerals, and focusing on gut health. She also did some supplements for cellular energy and repair, which kind of, in general, provided a very, very nice support. So major concerns is high stress and poor sleep, which I think continues to be the problem here, and contradictory data. She reported no exercise in this period, this very beneficial period. However, when the AI did the comparison between average result, you can see that the client reported being very active, focusing on training, strength training, high intensity interval training, and cardiovascular training. So this is kind of a conundrum, and the AI accurately actually recognized that there is an exercise paradox. So the most beneficial results were present when the client was not exercising at all, and the average results were present when the client started to exercise. I would say this, from a specialist perspective, this can be true, because obviously the client has high vulnerability to stress and sleep disarrangement. So actually adding high intensity exercise to this strains the body and does not allow body to fully recover, which actually I think the AI also recognized quite nicely. And it provided recommendations for this client, rethinking exercise being the main point and kind of wanting to advise the client to replicate that March 2024 beneficial protocol. Okay, so maybe we can, Dora, I don't know if, let me just stop the sharing for a second. If somebody has an idea on what to ask the AI right now. If nobody has it, Dora, maybe you have a general question that you would want to ask right now.
Perhaps we can ask some general questions on, for example, what are the indexes, which can be a question that people often have. So, for example, what is the glycan shield index or something like that?
Okay, let's say, what is the... Okay, failed to send a message. we do have a Mark Zuckerberg situation, but I think this is just because of my session. It's been too long, so maybe let's open up another one. Okay, if I can do this. Nope.
Paula, refresh the page. It's your browser session has been up for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I didn't want to disrupt anything. Okay. So let me go back to the same conversation and ask. Come on, okay. So as you can see, it takes a little bit of time for the GlycanAge to generate the answer. Okay, it's already done. Okay, so it says glycan shield is one of the 5 key indexes measured by GlycanAge. Think of it as peacekeepers of your immune system. And it provides a detailed breakdown. So glycan shield index measures a specific groups of glycan chelated structures that play a primary role in regulating and resolving inflammation. A healthy glycan shield indicates your body has a strong ability to calm down an immune response once it's no longer needed. This process is essential for recovery and tissue repair, preventing chronic inflammation from taking hold, maintaining overall immune balance. In short, higher is better for the glycan shield index, and you have a list of key influencing factors. So your glycan shield level is dynamic and can be influenced by several factors: diet, gut health, stress and sleep, hormones, health status, medications, and supplements. What the levels mean: low glycan shield indications, average, and high. I'm not going to read all of the sentences right now. Dora, are you satisfied with the answer? Would you say it's correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Let's stop the sharing now. Yeah, feel free to test out the AI assistant. It's available on your partner dashboard. Let us, of course, know if you have some interesting conversations. You can also print out the conversation, extract them in the PDF form. So feel free to use it. We would be happy. We worked so hard to actually provide this to you. So hopefully it will be an important aid in understanding and fully implementing GlycanAge into your practice. And of course, use the help button to actually arrange a meeting with us. We are still available for you to assist you, and we'll be happy to do so. Okay, does anybody have questions? Because from my side, I don't see any questions on the Q&A session. If there are no questions for today, please feel free to reach out via email. If you think of something, we will be ready to answer. And for now, I think we can wrap this up. And
Maybe let's give it a few minutes in case somebody wants to additionally ask questions. You can drop them in the Q&A chat down below.
Yeah. Okay, let's wait for another few minutes then.
Yes, it does. So we've also done a study looking at the effects.
Dora, can you say the question because we don't?
Oh, sorry, of course. So the question is, does TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy, also impact GlycanAge? Yes, it does. So we have done a few studies looking at what is the primary driver of increased GlycanAge in the case of lower levels of sex hormones, and we actually found that it is estrogen that has this anti-inflammatory effect in both men and women. However, we've also done a separate study looking at how testosterone replacement therapy affects glycans in men, and we also see it manages to reduce their biological age significantly. And of course, it depends on the dosage and the type of administering these hormones. So we do work with some HRT specialists who then kind of use GlycanAge. I wouldn't necessarily say to titrate the dosage, but even people who are currently on TRT, if this dosage or method of delivery isn't effective for them, if you manage to optimize that, you can lower their GlycanAge even further. And we have seen some incredible results where people were able to lower their biological age by more than a decade.
Thank you, Dora. And thank you, Dr. Chelsea Brown, for recognition. Okay, thank you so much.
We agree, Marco, energy is a real longevity drug.
Yes.
Positive energy and lower levels of stress are definitely something that's needed for a good GlycanAge. This is something we are working on into researching more. We have been seeing the very strong impact of stress on glycans and GlycanAge in general. So we are really excited to see where the science leads us. If anybody is working in these specific areas of stress or wants to do any sort of research, please do reach out to us. We'd be very interested
in also, we have recently published a white paper on the topic of psychoneuroimmunological support and GlycanAge results. You can also find it on your partner dashboard, download it, read it. We also have some other white papers on, for example, the impacts of pharmaceutical drugs on the GlycanAge results, and we are going to publish a lot more. So you're going to have additional education materials. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everybody. I think we can wrap it up for now. Please reach out if you have some further questions or comments, and feel free to use the AI assistant. And I hope that you will be satisfied with the new report. Oh, we actually have another question, Dora?
I would have to check. I do believe we have some. If you leave me your email, I can even share if I manage to find some papers on this specific topic. From the top of my head, I wouldn't know. There are over 70 different conditions in which glycans change. So I do believe from memory that there are some papers, but I'd like to double check and then share with you if possible. So if you can drop your email somewhere, it would be great.
We also have another question on the research connecting chronic inflammation and joint pain.
Yes, this was the question I was referring to. Sorry, I again didn't read the question. So it was referring to if we have any research on chronic inflammation from joint pain. Thank you for the email. And then in regards to the question in the chat, so how diversified is our data in terms of analyzing samples from different ethnic groups? So our baseline is done on the Twins UK cohort. However, we have done studies looking at different ethnicity groups. And while the baselines tend to be a bit different, the trends of glycan changes are the same across all different populations, and in the future we do hope to even have different baselines for different ethnicities, but currently we only have the one. Any research on human connection as opposed to loneliness? So far, I wouldn't say so, at least not in relate to glycans. So there are actually very few studies looking at different impacts of stress, and these are mostly post-traumatic, PTSD or major depressive disorder. But there's actually very, very little research looking at glycans and stress, and we're hoping to change that, because from real life work, we can see some really strong connections.
Yeah, we do see some strong connections and strong signals, and this is why, for example, our team is attending the Masters event, which is event for psychologists to talk about trauma and stress. So we really want to deepen our connections and actually conduct more research into this area. Okay, if there are no further questions, now the third time is the charm. Maybe we can wrap it up, but thank you for being so active. I really like this enthusiasm. I wish we can also see each other, but thank you, and feel free to reach out further. And yeah, I'll just, maybe we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good
Thank you,
day.
everybody. Bye.